What's up, guys? I don't have yours, Isabella. No. Can you see me? Maddie, I don't have yours either. At least not yet. I haven't looked. Let me just take a quick look here. Classwork handed in. Chapter 8. Let's see. Oh, yeah, 5 turned in. Let's see. Ava turned in. Aaliyah turned in. Ryan turned in. Julia Madonna turned in. Christian turned in. That's who I have so far. Great job, guys, turning that in. Very, very appreciative of that. No talk about bacon, Allison. And Dean, you and I are going to have some words. I stopped eating at like 8:30 yesterday. So as soon as I'm done reading, I get to eat. I had to get my kids IHOP for breakfast because it's my Landon's birthday today, and it's what all he wanted was Captain Crunch nonsense pancakes, garbage. But we got it for him. Ryan, what happened? What am I missing? You didn't send yours, Maddie. I don't have it. We could talk. We'll get it through though. I'm not worried about it. Yes, do it on loose leaf. If you don't want to print it, don't print it. Have it up on the screen. Do your scrap paper on loose leaf. Snap a picture of the loose leaf. Then send it to your Google Docs. And then you're going to open up the assignment and just click add. And then you'll be able to add the picture right to that. And then hit submit or hand in, whatever the button is. And then it will come to me. I'll grade it and I'll send it back to you. Maddie Johnson and I already graded his. And he made the corrections. We've been communicating back and forth with his. So as soon as we're done here, Captain Crunch is not the best, Christian, but as soon as that's done, we'll get that done. Ava, you and the bacon, not fair. Yes, Ryan, I have your math test. I'm going to grade it. You'll get it back this afternoon, and you can look over the corrections that you have to make. I wouldn't worry about grades right now, guys. I know you haven't done that math in a week and a half. I just wanted to try handing in an assignment. I'm very happy. Mr. Johnson was able to help me out. So we got that done. Nearpods Live, we're going to log on together. And we're going to have one person going at a time. They're going to send me the code or send us the code. We're going to log in. And then they're going to present from their home computer. That's the plan. I've never done it before. I'm hoping that we get everybody on board. If you need a Chromebook, it seems you guys all have them, but if your friends of our classmates doesn't have a Chromebook, they need to contact the school, and hopefully they can lend one out to them. Having some kind of device is going to be crucial for you to do the work at this point. I keep seeing the same faces here. I'm very excited. We're up to 12 people already. Is it freezing today, guys? Al, you're asking about chapter 5, the math test. Is that what it was? Chapter 6, whatever it was, with areas of the triangles. Yeah, you guys got them back before the end of the year. I have them. We just haven't. I wanted to go over them with you guys before handing them back. Calling app I use. Maybe we could go get Google. Yeah, we're not going to be able to for you guys to be live with me on camera. The district doesn't want that. So this is the best we could do. We can only do the communication like this, and we could also do the Nearpods. It would be fun to do the race to the mountain or climb the mountain to get that done. I haven't been outside yet either. I do a bunch of soccer videos for the Connect soccer players on Facebook Live called Coach Cav. We take my kids outside. We do a couple soccer workouts. I'm sure you can get credit for that on the gym. Your phys head department. I'm sure Mr. Nelson will agree to that. I left this morning, Christian, just to get Captain Crunch pancakes. But otherwise, I've been quarantined, trying to stay home, trying to stay away from everybody, and hoping that it ends soon. I think if we all stay in and do the right thing, go in your yard, do things like that, I think this will end sooner than later, and we'll be back together. I'm sure you guys are getting tired of your houses and your video games, and I hope you are anyway. All right, we're going to get started. It's 12:08. I need sports too, Matt. my life. I lost the whole tennis season right now. I'm not happy. We're up to 13, just lost one. Okay, so do me a favor. All the chatter on the side, we're going to keep it only to Jason Lincoln's Killer at this point. Okay, thanks for telling me you're eating pizza, Ryan. You are a piece of work, boy. I tell you. Okay, so this is what I want us to do right now. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to type the answer in the sidebar. Okay. Was Secretary Seward assassinated? Yes or no? You're just typing in yes or no. Don't answer. I can't hear you. Got it. Christian, right. Hero is right. Correct. Two of you have answered no. Anybody think yes? Seward, the Secretary of State. Dean, he was not. It was an attempted assassination, Isabella and Dean. Remember, he survived. He's the one that had his face shredded by the knife. So he was not assassinated. Good. Question number 2. Was President Lincoln assassinated? Yes or no? Go. Waiting for all these responses coming in here. Was President Lincoln assassinated? Yes is the correct answer. Well done, guys. Okay, question 3. What was the curfew for leaving Washington, the city of Washington? What was the curfew? You're going to have to write that in, type that in. What was the curfew? No answers so far. I don't know if it's freezing on me or what. No answers. Looking for some answers. What was the curfew? You can't leave after dark. 7 is a good answer, Rye. Can't leave after dark was the answer. Very good job. 7 could be probably the good answer also. Okay. Now, did David Herold get out of Washington on this night? Yes or no? Did David Herold, who was the guy working with Lewis Powell, did he get out? Was he able to get across the border? Yes, he was. For some reason, Sergeant Cobb let him go and let Booth go. They all got across. Lewis Powell didn't get across, but David Herold did. That was the last part that we read yesterday. David Herold did escape. If you remembered here, it says, I'm going to show you right there. You can read it. I think it's backwards. Anyway, if you are talented enough to read backwards, you're incredible. But it says, finally, without explanation, Sergeant Cobb waved Herold across the bridge. So he did get across. So right now, headed to Virginia. Is Adonis on here yet? I didn't hear from Adonis yet. Headed to Virginia is David Herold and John Wilkes Booth. Stuck in Washington. Oh, it's not? Thank you, Dean. Stuck in Washington is Lewis Powell and George Azradot. Now, remember, there was no assassination. The same number just called me. I'll have to call him back. Okay. Oh, cool. I'm glad you could read it. It wasn't backwards. Okay, so now we're going to find out what happened to Lewis Powell today. It's going to be a short chapter. We don't have much to read. I just really wanted to say hello. We got about 5-6 pages to read today, and I'm going to stop. We got so much to do with getting everything else on the Google Classroom. I'm excited about getting the math figured out and how to hand things in, but now we're ready to get going. So on the sidebar, I don't want to hear anything other than Jason Lincoln's Kills questions. Yesterday, we had some great questions. Okay, so Herold's gone. Lincoln's shot. Seward is in pain. Booth is escaped. Lewis Powell is roaming the streets of Washington. So here we go. Page 70. Somewhere east of the Capitol building, Lewis Powell was not having an easy time as Booth and Herold in fleeing the city. He had escaped Seward's servant and the others, and no one was chasing him now. But he did not know the city well. It got worse. He somehow lost or abandoned his son's surest and quickest means of escape from the city, the one-eyed horse Booth had bought. So Powell somehow, trying to escape, now lost his horse. So it's him now by himself. As nightfall approached on the night of April 14th, Lewis Powell was in trouble. He was a lone figure standing in the moonlight, lost, unarmed, and wearing a coat stained with blood. He did not know where he was, what to do, or where to go. For the next 2 nights, he slept in a tree. You heard that right, guys. He hid out into a tree, and that's where he slept. You know, what are you going to do? He began thinking of some of the places in Washington that Booth had taken him before. He remembered the boarding house, he recalled. He might be safe there if he could just remember how to get there. 13 miles southeast of Washington, John Lloyd, the proprietor of Surratt's Tavern, went to bed. Although Mary Surratt had told him that afternoon to expect some nighttime callers, they had never shown up. So Booth never made it to Mary Surratt's Tavern that night. Several miles further south on an isolated farm near Bryantown, Maryland, Dr. Samuel A. Mudd, his wife, and their 4 young children were also in bed. Abraham Lincoln slept, too, more than 15 minutes after he was shot. He was still on the floor of the theater box at Ford's Theater. Dr. Leal could not leave Lincoln to die on the floor of a theater, a place of amusement. As Leal considered his next move, a woman rushed through Ford's to get to the president. She knew history was being made in the presidential box and had convinced herself that she must be a part of it. The woman was an actress named Laura Keene. She knew the theater well. She wanted to be with Abraham Lincoln on this day, not because she cared, but because she wanted to be famous. Still wearing her costume and carrying a pitcher of water that would serve as her passport to the president's box, she made her way up a hidden staircase that took her to a private office near the box. In less than a minute, she had crossed the theater and emerged on the second floor on the same side as Lincoln's box. She talked her way to the door, through the vestibule, and into the box. No one thought to prevent the great Laura Keene from entering. The scene fascinated Laura Keene and stimulated her theatrical instincts. Hypnotized by the image of the fallen president, Keene imagined the scene with herself at the center of it. These actresses are all cocky and they all want to get their fame and fortune. So this girl, Laura Keene, who was an actress in the play, said, I'm going to get involved somehow. I'm going to get my name forever marked in history. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance, impossible for her to resist. Could she, the actress, ask Dr. Leal, cradle the dying president's head in her lap? It was a shocking request of no possible physical comfort or medical benefit to Lincoln, but Dr. Leal allowed it. Laura Keene knelt beside Lincoln, lifted his head, and rested it in her lap. Bloodstains and tiny bits of gray matter from Lincoln's brain oozed onto the cream-colored silk fabric, spreading and adding color to the frock's bright and festive red, yellow, green, and blue floral pattern. I know, pretty gross. Laura Keene cherished the blood and brain-speckled dress she wore this terrible night. In the days ahead, people begged to see the dress, to handle it, and to marvel at the stains on it. The dress vanished long ago, but miraculously, a few small pieces, 5 treasured pieces, survived. Long ago, the stains, once red, faded to a rust-colored pale brown. Laura Keene is remembered not for her talent as an accomplished actress or her lifetime of performances on stage, but for the scene she staged in the president's box. Other great actresses from the 19th century American theater have faded into oblivion, while Laura Keene is remembered for a single unscripted act that took place over a few minutes in the box at Ford's on April 14th, 1865. So this actress, basically, she wanted to live forever, and she does. Everyone remembers Laura Keene being the one that held Lincoln's head as he was dying at the box of Ford's Theater. The President of the United States could not die in a theater. Dr. Leal would see to it that Lincoln would die with dignity in a proper bed. Take him to the White House, someone begged. Impossible, Leal explained. Even the brief carriage ride between Ford's and the White House over unpaved, muddy streets, gouged with ruts and tracks from hundreds of carriage wheels, would be too much for Lincoln to endure. The bumpy ride would jostle the head wound and instantly kill him. Am I still alive, guys? Ava, I know you said something went wrong. It looks like you're back. Looks like you're back. I don't know why more people didn't go in there. I mean, it's an interesting question. Just Laura Keene is the only one that was allowed in the box. I mean, maybe because she was just carrying the water. Maybe she was that smart to say, this is my only way to get in. I got water. Does anyone need water? And then they let her in, and before you know it, has the president's head in her lap, and she's forever immortalized for that action. Leal and the others in the box prepared to move Lincoln's body. Without knowing where they would take him, just knowing that they must take him from that place. They did not want Lincoln to die in a theater. They wanted to move him and let him die in a more dignified place. That's really what the key here is. He's dying. They just want to get him out of the theater and get him in a bed somewhere. Without knowing whether to take him, just knowing they must take him from that place. Laura Keene's presence in the box brought attention to an uncomfortable fact. She was an actress. This was a theater, and it was Good Friday, the most solemn day of the Christian calendar. But the President of the United States was not worshiping in a church. Instead, he was dying on the floor of a theater, a place of entertainment. Booth, now safely across, now we're back to, now we're leaving the theater, and now we're going back where Booth is, who's traveling out of Washington City and into Maryland on his way to Virginia. That's the plan. Booth, now safely across the Navy Yard Bridge, rode into the dark. Of his three accomplices, he needed David Herold the most. I hope you're asking yourself, why would he need David Herold the most? I want you to think. The other two, Lewis Powell, very strong and powerful, but not very smart. George Azardot, chicken, scared, not really loyal. David Herold, an experienced outdoorsman, a hunter. You understand why David Herold was the most important person there? Because Booth's expecting to be staying outside, living outside. And to do that, you need someone who's experienced. And David Herold is the guy for that job. So, more than Powell or Azardot, Booth was a creature of the city and its fancy hotel lobbies, saloons, oyster bars, and gaslight shadows. He did not have the skills he would need to survive in the coming days, those of outdoorsmen, hunters, or boatsmen. But Herold was all of those things, and that's why Booth chose him above all others to be his guide. Once Booth crossed the river into Maryland, he rode through a darkened and quiet countryside. Few travelers were using the empty roads. He trotted over the route and he had rehearsed the previous year in preparing for the kidnapping plot. As Booth rode on, he searched the horizon for Cypress Hill, the chosen meeting place with Herold. In daylight, it was simple to find the place, but nightfall had obscured the hills. Alone in the country, he was out of his element. So now it's pitch black. He thinks he's where he should be. He doesn't see anybody. Nobody's out. It's late at night now. He's just hoping to see his group. Powell, Herold, Azardot. And most importantly, he wants to see Herold more than anybody. Now Booth was more aware of the pain in his left leg. Near desperation after his hard ride, he glanced at the horizon. He was just beyond Washington city limits. David and the others might be a few minutes ahead or behind him. Booth saw nothing ahead of him. When he turned to look behind him, he heard a noise in the distance, horse hooves pounding the earth. Was it the first warning of a cavalry patrol in hot pursuit? As the noise grew louder, it sounded, to his relief, like one horse, not many. Then his pursuer came within sight, one small man on a gray horse. Relief trickled down the assassin's spine as he recognized David Herold. The actor was happy to be on safe ground, and now he had his guide. So David Herold and John Wilkes Booth have met up with each other. Maryland, although it did not secede from the Union and join the Confederacy at the start of the Civil War, remained a hotbed of secessions. Maryland was a Confederate as a state could be without actually seceding. If Maryland had seceded and become the 12th star in the Confederate flag, the Union would have been in grave danger. The Union capital would have been completely surrounded by rebel states, isolated from the rest of the North. But Maryland never did secede. Even though the people there did not like Lincoln all that much, the state, the government never left the Union, which was a very important factor in the war. Booth and Herold spurred their horses, riding southeast to their first safe house, a few miles away. Now, a safe house is someplace that they know of, that they know is someone that will help them. Again, it's like the Underground Railroad, but in reverse. You're looking for people that are for slavery and against Lincoln. And you're going back into the South, as opposed to the Underground Railroad going with people that were against slavery into the North. Now it's the opposite way. So he has a safe house. He knows of a house where he can go, where he will be safe. That's why they call it the safe house. Booth probably peppered Herold with questions. Why is he alone? Where is Lewis Powell? Did Powell kill Seward? Did Azardot murder the vice president? Herold would have answered that he had not seen Azardot since the conspirators parted earlier in the evening to carry out their assassinations. He had no idea whether Vice President Johnson was dead. Herold told Booth the details he knew of what had happened at the Seward residence. The trick of claiming Powell was a messenger from a doctor who had worked perfectly. Herold heard no gunshots. About 10 minutes after Powell entered the Seward mansion, a servant ran out of the front door into the street, screaming murder. And then a girl threw open an upstairs window and started yelling too. The news seemed to prove to Booth the faithful Powell had carried out his mission. But Booth must have been unhappy with Herold for abandoning Powell, whom he especially liked. And Powell would have come in handy if they had to do any fighting during their escape. Booth guessed that Powell, who had never learned his way around the capital city, was a lost man. Booth certainly told Herold of his success at Ford's Theater. This was the assassin's first chance to describe his deed, and the actor in him probably made the most of the dramatic story. Outside Ford's Theater, bewildered pedestrians joined the crowd of theater patrons and hovered near the front doors, awaiting the president. The public did not know whether Lincoln was still alive. Leo's team carried Lincoln through the lobby, out the doors, and across the steps, where just 11 hours earlier, John Wilkes Booth had sat, reading his letter, calculating whether he would have time to put an assassination plan into action. So now we're back. They're trying to get Lincoln again out of the theater. The crowd gasped when they saw Lincoln being carried out of the theater. They swarmed and surrounded the president. Leo, the doctors, and soldiers cradling the dying president halted. Where should they take Lincoln? Leo scanned the street for refuge. Straining his voice to be heard by a sword-bearing officer, he shouted a command. Take the president straight across the street and into the nearest home. A soldier crossed ahead, pounding on the door, demanding entry. In view of the horrified mob in the street, Dr. Leo pulled another blood clot from the hole in Lincoln's head to relieve the pressure on the brain and tossed the gooey mass into the street. Fresh blood and brain matter oozed through Leo's fingers. I know it's gross, but think about when you have a scab, when you have a cut, it shows that it's healing because it scabs over. That's the body's protection of the cut. And you always told, don't pick the scab because it's going to bleed again. Well, with the brain, his brain is swelling from the injury and the gunshot. And if you kept it corked in there, it's just going to swell and it's going to do more damage. So if you take that out, it allows all that mess to ooze out, which, believe it or not, protects the brain because it's not just going to get all swollen. Gross, I know. You know I'm not good with that stuff. When Leo was halfway across the street, soldiers on the other side yelled that the house was locked and no one answered the door. Why? Let me just answer these questions here. Yeah, should have been wearing gloves and infections. And here, a great question. They had nothing. They weren't prepared for it. He didn't have his doctor's kit, and he just grabbed what he could at that moment. And Dean, if you guys read the comments, Dean answered the question perfectly. The White House was too far, they said. They said the bumpy road alone would kill him. So perfect answer, Dean. It's 100% accurate. They could not travel to the White House. It was too far, too dangerous, too bumpy. They knew he would die. They didn't want him dying in the theater. They didn't want him dying in the carriage. They wanted him in a bed. So the best solution was to go to that house, whatever house. If your house was next door to the theater, they could have been knocking on your door. When Leo was halfway across the street, soldiers on the incredible. Okay. Soldiers on the other side yelled that the house was locked and no one answered the door. The scene was incredible, impossible. Stranded in the middle of a muddy street with no place to go, the president of the United States was dying in the presence of a mob of hundreds, perhaps 1,000 witnesses. Until this moment, no one paid any attention to William Peterson's neat brick row house next door to the home they had locked tight. It was a boarding house. Someone opened the front door of the house. A boarder had heard the shouting of the crowd and had gone outside to see what was happening. He stepped outside onto the top of the staircase and raised a candle. "Bring him in here!" he shouted above the sea of people. "Bring him in here!" Lincoln had found a safe house at last. So they found the house for him to lay his head. And if you go to Washington, you can actually go to Ford's Theater. And what's incredible about it, you walk across the street, you could go into that boarding house and actually visit the room that Lincoln died in. I've been there a few times. It's really pretty cool. Not that he died, but that kind of history is unbelievable. Washington is filled with that kind of history. Okay, believe it or not, that's it for today. That's all of chapter 4. We're going to begin chapter 5 tomorrow with everything else that we got planned. It's going to be a little bit harder for us to get work done. But, I mean, reading done because we're going to have so much other work to do. But the way I look at it is very simple. We're going to meet up towards the end of the day now with the reading. And any questions you have, we'll spend the first 10 minutes or so. I'll answer any questions you have about the day's work. And then we'll read. We'll close with some more questions that you have any. And again, you could always use the Google Classroom if you have a question. I'm going to get right back to you. So this is what I'm doing. I'm here. Here, go ahead, ask a question. Dean, you went? Awesome. Matt, definitely tell the family it's a great trip. Okay. That's cool, Allison. It's really a wonderful trip. Okay, good. Yes. Mr. Nelson set up a Google Classroom for phys ed. So if I look at my son's Google Classroom, because he's in the middle school, when I open up his Google Classroom page, there's like 6 different classes. So yes, you're going to say yes to Mr. Nelson, join that class. And then you're going to check out the assignments he has for you for phys ed. Obviously, they'll be a little bit more fun than mine. Brianna, I'm going to have everything ready to go by 9. Most of the work you're going to do on your own time. There's not a set time. I think it's easier for your parents and for you to get up and sit down and do your work, because that's when I'm going to be on the computer if you have any questions or things like that. But if you slept late, you slept late, and you get up and the work's still going to be there. You want to do work in the afternoon instead of doing it in the morning, then do work in the afternoon. I'm just going to have assignments ready for you tomorrow. But you do it when you want. And again, if there's any questions, your parents have my cell phone. They can text me. And you have Google Classroom. You can text me too through that way. All right? We're going to get in touch with each other. What I want from you today is to finish the math test. You don't have to print it. Have it on the screen. Do the answers on Loose Leaf. Snap a picture of it. Save it in your Google Docs. Send it to me on the assignment link. That's your job today. 5 of you, 6 of you, 7 of you have done it already. Great job. I'm going to grade it and give it back to you. And this is how we're going to operate for the next couple of weeks until we can figure out what's going on with school. All right? The reading tomorrow, let's go 5 p.m. tomorrow. 5 p.m. reading. Any other questions before I go get something to eat? 12:34. Any other questions? Okay, do me a favor, guys. Can you let, who's it's like the same kids over and over again. If you could talk to the kids that you haven't seen on here, see if they can get access and come on here. Or, I haven't seen a bunch of them that I'm looking to get in touch with. So just let them know that we're here and we could chit chat once a day via this site. All right, guys, I'm going to head out. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. My dog has been sound asleep this whole time. She's not as impressed with Jason Lincoln's Killer as I am. And I'm just going to see something here. What does this button do? That just shares the link. Okay. What I want to see is, I'm going to figure that out on my own. Okay, no questions. Sure. Good. Let Emily know I miss her. Okay, guys. I'll talk to you soon. All right, guys. Awesome job today. The Nearpod for Chasing Lincoln's Killer is not going to be done until we're done with the book. So any assignments out there now, you don't have to do anything. That's the last thing. It'll be posted and you'll know. They'll have a due date by it. Okay, guys? Have a great day. Go outside a little bit in your yard. Social distancing. Bye.